Audio test, there we go. Now I'm live. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. You're going to have to forgive me and go along with me a little bit as I get started here. I'm solo today. Normally I have a commentator along with me, somebody who I've worked with before and who I believe is an absolute professional and helps me get through the news of the day. And today I just don't have that. So it's just me, myself, and I. And as I usually do, I'm going to start off by saying, if you have something a comment you want to get in, and it's relevant to what I'm talking about today especially, please get your comments in. I love the immediate feedback. I love to get your comments on the air, and it feels like I'm having a discussion directly with you. So no matter where you're watching, Facebook, either in a group or on the Polite Society podcast page, or if you're watching on YouTube, get your comments in. If you're catching us anywhere other than that, just go to Twitter, tweet with the hashtag #TheBullet. We're on Restream, we're on Getter, we're a whole lot of different places. So, yeah, I know for some reason the mic is a little loud. Let me get that one up there. That mic is a little loud. What's happening is, for some reason, this mic right here, the mic that I usually use, is not showing up in my broadcast software. So I had to go very quickly to a backup mic that is actually a part of the mic, a part of the webcam. So let me turn this down just a little bit, and it's still just a touch hot. All right, check 1, 2. There we go. That's looking a lot better. And this is how the sausage gets made. You get to see me. You get to see me as things happen. Carrie, this just came in. Your audio, is it off? It was. I do see audio going out, but I don't hear me. So, and that's the way it's supposed to be, because if I do hear me, it's on a delay. And that really screws me up. So I turn my own audio off to me. Austin says that's better. Very cool. Yeah. And I don't know who said that. This is coming from a Facebook group. Hard of hearing. I like it. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I've had serious hearing loss for a long time. When I do have audio that I need to listen to, these headsets are absolutely cranked. You don't even have to be in the same room as I am, and you can hear what's going on in my headsets. That's how bad my hearing is. Shotguns in the 70s, little ear protection. I hear you. Mine was race cars in the 80s, and firearms really throughout my entire life. So that's the cause of my hearing loss. But we deal with it. We deal with what we have to. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the news. First thing up today in the news, I'm getting this off FoxNews.com. Illinois went ahead. The House passed their assault weapons ban. Senate passed assault weapons ban light. House didn't like it. Senate it was looking like everybody was going to get into one big urinating match and to see who was more woke. Well, it looks like, and they had until tomorrow at noon. That's the end of the session. Their lame duck ends tomorrow at noon. Last night, they pulled everything together with 36 hours to spare They pulled everything together. There is a bill that is going to Governor Pritzker's office. And I'm going to read a little bit off this Fox News news story here. Gun rights groups are promising to fight a proposed semi-automatic weapons ban in Illinois after the state Senate advanced gun control legislation championed by the Democrats. The Illinois State Senate on Monday passed its version of the Protect Illinois Communities Act, which would ban so-called assault weapons and high-capacity magazines from being manufactured or sold in the state. The bill also makes devices intended to increase the rate of fire of semi-automatic weapons illegal and increases the duration of a firearm restraining order from 6 months up to 1 year under the state's red flag law. Quote, gun violence is an epidemic that is plaguing every corner of this state, and the people of Illinois are demanding substantive action, said Democratic Senate President Don Harmon. By the way, Chicago resident Don Harmon. He doesn't know about the rest of the state. He doesn't go there. I would bet the last time Don Harmon was outside the state capital or Chicago was in the 1970s. With this legislation, he continues, we're delivering on the promise Democrats have made, and altogether we are making Illinois' gun law a model for the nation. What you're doing, Mr. Harmon, is this is a lawyer's employment act, because I will absolutely guarantee the Second Amendment Foundation and others are going to be suing. I would be shocked if there aren't lawsuits already ready to file, just waiting for the governor's signature. It could be others other than at SAF. I can speak for SAF because that's who employs me, but I'm not at all certain what other groups are going to be suing. I would be surprised a lot if only the SAF were to sue. Carrie wants to, and let me go back to comments here. Whoops, that's the wrong button. That's the button I want. Carrie wants to know, will criminals follow this? Well, no. If you have an assault weapon, by the definition that they've passed, you have 300 days to register it with the state police. I can just imagine the gangbangers are getting ready to go see the state police. I got to register this thing. Right. And Diane wants to know, why don't they keep criminals in jail? Well, that's a great point. That will be coming up in a later story I've got for today. What I will say is this. Again, with this one, did it pass? Yes. Is the governor going to sign it? Almost definitely. Will the SAF and others sue? Absolutely, positively. It's going to be a temporary setback, but I honestly believe that's all it's going to be, is a temporary setback. Next story is the truth about guns, and we discussed this a little bit last night when we did Polite Society podcast. Moms Demand Action founder Shannon Watts is announcing her retirement at the end of 2023. The one prevailing attitude I see from this is right here.
Well, bye.
That's what I hear from most people when they hear about Shannon Watts retiring. Honestly, I'm a little, how do I put this? Tom Knighton wrote about this, and I'm agreeing with Tom in that Shannon does two things really well. She blocks people. So if she says something that's not too smart, which is a lot, and you respond with logic, you respond, and it doesn't even have to be snark, although it's hard not to throw snark back at that. But if you just respond normally and with reason, she will block you that fast. And there's no kind of, with a Twitter block, there's nothing you can do. But she's not really all that effective. What she does, she dances in the blood when something bad happens, and she does that very well. And she gets the attention of the mainstream media who agree with her. Those are the two things she's effective at. Is she really good at getting legislation done? Not really. There are some, Illinois, that was going to happen. The legislation in New Jersey, that was going to happen. What will turn those things around is lawsuits. And can Shannon Watts claim big victory because these things happen? Not really. They were going to happen whether she did anything or not. So, let's see here. Ha! There you go. Diane says she's turning in her red shirt. Goodbye. When I was a kid, totally unrelated, but somewhat related. When I was a kid, red shirts, I was a huge Star Trek fan. Red shirt meant when you go to the planet, you're not going to make it back. Kirk will, but if you beam down with a red shirt, you're toast. That's what red shirts mean to me. As a matter of fact, it's a running joke with Polite Society. When we get a new staff member in, I had shirts made up for Polite Society podcast, regular gray ones, but if you're brand new to Polite Society, we have a red shirt with the Polite Society logo made up and sent to you. The new guy gets the red shirt. Let's see here. Somebody in a Facebook group said she needs to retire now. Well, again, as Tom Knighton pointed out over on Bearing Arms, she's really not getting that much done, so what's the hurry? I mean, she can be around, she can dance in the blood, and she can, the reasoning public can see that's just not right. So, she isn't really hurting us, and she's giving good things for me and others that do jobs like mine to talk about. So, anyway, Carrie also says maybe she saw the light. I think what's actually probably happening, Carrie, I think she may be preparing to run for office in 2024. I don't know where. I know it would be somewhere that is deeply Democratic, a very deep blue area. And she may run for House. She may run for a local elected office. I do not see her running for anything larger than House. But I think that's what her plan is to join AOC and her crew in Washington, D.C. in the House is what I think is. Big John says her organization was responsible for all the new gun control in Delaware. I suppose that's possible. I'm not that familiar with what happened in Delaware. I would have to look into it. But that would be, if true, that would be the single biggest thing that her organization has ever done. Period. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's see what I got next. This one off the Modesto Bee and a $568,600 grant through the Attorney General's office could support the Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department in seizing guns from people who illegally possess them. The effort to reduce gun violence would target more than 1,000 firearms in the possession of owners who are prohibited because of criminal convictions, restraining orders, or mental illness. The effort would mainly seek to recover guns from people who purchased them legally, but then became prohibited persons due to criminal convictions, domestic restraining orders, or other reasons. Here's my concern here. If you get a domestic restraining order, and then they are incredibly easy to get. Let me come back over here. It's incredibly easy for a domestic restraining order to be issued, and they usually last for the term of the divorce or whatever is going on. They're not usually permanent. But once that domestic restraining order is done, you can go ahead and go back and you can buy firearms again, generally. What this seems to be doing is once you've got a domestic restraining order, they're saying you have to surrender all your firearms to the police department. You have to do it now, and it's forever. That's the concern I have here. And that's a huge problem with the red flag laws. So, because red flag laws, and we talked about them here just a little bit ago in Illinois, they were 6 months. Now they're going to a year. I would imagine they're going to try to extend them now to the next step is 5 years, 3 years, somewhere in there. Eventually, somebody's going to make them permanent unless you sue to get them back. And I see that as the way it's going. And again, the way to fight that is in the courts, especially in these deep, deep, deep blue states. That's where we're going to win, is in the courts. Michael wants to know, do I still need a helper? Polite Society is chugging on along all right. I wouldn't mind on the Polite Society podcast adding one more female voice, another voice that is a strong advocate for Second Amendment and is a female. Right now, the only lady that we have showing up on a regular basis for Polite Society is Amanda. And she doesn't show up every week, but she's there most weeks. We do have Robin Sandoval that gets there when she can. So I wouldn't mind adding another lady. We've got enough guys. And the last thing I want to do is to make Polite Society podcast, and it was for a long time, a guy's zone where guys would talk about what's going on with guns and all that, and the female perspective was never really brought in. And so I wouldn't mind adding another lady to the mix. So, for example, Carrie Ann, if you were to be interested, or if you know somebody who is strong into gun rights and would like to be a part of the Polite Society podcast, have that person get in touch with me, and we'll certainly see what's going there. What's going on? Oh, and hey, get this. She says, I would like to help. Get in touch with me after the show has got 21 more minutes. After the show goes dark, Carrie, get in touch with me. We'll see what we can work out. And by the way, the pay, there is none. Sorry, still recovering from that virus I got over Christmas. And so, next story I got, this is off starherald.com. That is a Scottsbluff, Nebraska paper. It looks like Nebraska this year is going to get permitless carry. I thought that for the past 3 years. 2 years ago, it got kind of close. Last year, it was one vote away. This year, I think they might actually do it. But the Star Herald found one senator in an Omaha senator, and let me go ahead and read what they wrote. Senator Michaela Cavanaugh of Omaha has proposed a legislative rules change that would ban guns in legislative spaces in the Capitol. The ban would include legislative committee rooms, she said Monday, as the legislature's Rules Committee prepared to consider an avalanche of 52 proposed rule changes. A scheduled hearing on the changes was moved from Monday to Thursday because of lengthy floor debate on a report from the legislature's Committee on Committees that determined senatorial committee assignments. I personally would like to see no guns in the Capitol, she said, other than those carried by law enforcement officers or military personnel. That would be safer for everyone, she said, but she noted that emotions can run high during legislative proceedings, so that is the focus of her legislative rules proposal. Gun rights advocates openly carrying guns as allowed by state law filled a Capitol hallway leading to a legislative committee room in 2020 as they expressed opposition to proposed gun control legislation. It was one of my worst days here, Kavanaugh said, recalling the intimidation she said was on display. I was traumatized by those events. You have... Excuse me again. You have the right to bear arms, she said, but not without restrictions that have been recognized as constitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court. A lot of people who work in the Capitol would prefer that weapons are not brought into the building by people other than law enforcement officers, Kavanaugh said. I'm going to speak directly to, what's this lady's first name? Michaela. Michaela, I'm not speaking directly to you here now. I have been armed every day for the past many years. And back when I very first started the Polite Society podcast, about a year and a half after I started it, I was approached by some people that had it's ABN Army surplus here in Sioux Falls. They wanted me to come do my show live from there as part of a sponsorship agreement. And I did. And also as part of that, a guy named Gary, who is the manager there, wanted to come on the air from time to time. I allowed that. The guy had some really whacked out opinions. And I remember off the air, we were standing outside one day, and Gary and I got into a screaming match because of the because of the bad ideas the guy had. And we were quite literally yelling at one another, and both of us were armed at the time. Was it emotionally charged? You bet it was emotionally charged. Did either of us, even for a microsecond, consider drawing our weapons? Nope, not in the least. Michaela, I do believe you should never own a firearm. And as a corollary of that, if you are not trustworthy enough to own a firearm, I don't think you're trustworthy to help run the government in Nebraska. It's time for you to step down. So, wow. I don't know what happened. Now I'm getting... Gerald says... no video on Facebook, but Carrie Ann says, I see him. I'm looking over at my broadcast software, and everything looks like it's going out and doing just fine. Let me load up. Yeah, it seemed. Well, I'm not going to push play, but I just loaded up Polite Society, and it's right there. So I don't know. Maybe it failed for a few seconds. I'm not quite sure. Let me see what else I got. I think I have. Oh yes, I got one more story that I want to talk about today, and I burned up just myself. I burned up 25 minutes of the 30-minute show. So let's get to this story by Tom Knight in a Bearing Arms article. And this was going to be discussed yesterday, but on both Polite Society and on the Bullet, we ran out of time. There is a gentleman in Wyoming that is suing the federal government, wanting to build his own M16. I'm going to read just a little bit from Tom's article. A Watipi man who wants to make a machine gun is suing the U.S. government for denying his application to do so, saying a federal anti-machine gun law violates his Second Amendment right. Jake Stanley DeWild filed a federal complaint in the U.S. District Court for Wyoming last week, asking the court to issue a declaration against U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland and the director of ATF. DeWild's complaint says that on December 8th, 2022, he submitted an ATF form asking to make and register an M16 machine gun, but 12 days later, the ATF denied his application, citing federal law that forbids both the transfer and possession of machine guns. And that, of course, is a law that says that anything made after 1980, I'm looking, it's 84, 86, I don't remember which, but anything manufactured after that cannot be possessed by common folk. Those are for law enforcement and for military only. And this guy argues that, look, the military uses it, so it's common use by the military, going back to the Heller decision. And I wish this guy all the luck in the world. I believe that I have the right, you have the right, and this gentleman has the right to bear arms, meaning in 1791, the arms that were in use to defend our nation. And that includes cannon, that includes anything one person can buy and use. That's an arm. And so, yeah, I believe he has that right. My issue is the guy is not a lawyer, and he's representing himself in court. That's dangerous. If you are not an attorney, you don't know how things work in court. And I'm worried that he's going to get a judgment that will set bad precedent. Do I hope he's successful? Yes, I do. I'm a little worried that because he's handling this himself, this has got "hold my beer and watch this" written all over it. Something very bad could happen out of this and set us back. Will it set us back permanently? I don't think so, but it could cause problems down the road. Let's see here. And we're caught up with comments there. So Charlie Cook says, I think Facebook has been weird today. You know what? Facebook is weird to me a lot. Why do I have that one up when I should have that one up? And Charlie, I'm glad you tuned in. I wish you were here to help me. I'd love to bounce off you. Get this up there. They will make him look like a gun nut. You know, I'm going to say I'm not an attorney. I consider myself a fairly intelligent individual. But if I were to go into court, I'm fairly certain they would make me look like a gun nut. That's why if I'm going into court, no matter what, I'm going to have an attorney, somebody that I trust and that I'm paying a good amount of money to, and has my best interests in heart, knows what's going on. I'm going to have them beside me and representing me. That is 30 minutes. That's the amount of show time we have. I apologize for my chest acting up on me a little bit earlier, but I want to thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for all the comments today. and helping me get through the 30 minutes. In effect, you were my co-host today. You were my commentator, and I appreciate the heck out of that. So tomorrow is supposed to be Dan Watts coming in, and Thursday, I don't know who I've got for Thursday. Let me pull my calendar here fast. But I talked with Dan Watts about an hour ago right now. Dan Watts is coming in tomorrow. Mike Piwowarski is Thursday, and Alex Uli will be here Friday for talking about legal. And I can just about guarantee you that the Illinois story will be coming up. The temporary restraining order that we got against New Jersey will be coming up on Friday. And this M16 lawsuit in Wyoming will be coming up Friday when we talk with Alex Uli about legal stuff. Everybody, thank you again for watching. Thank you for commenting. Podcast listeners, please consider coming to join us 5 p.m. Central Time. You can get your comments in. You can be part of the show as well. Thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you next